All right, so I've talked a lot about doing test-driven development, but I haven't actually shown you a end-to-end test or what my process is of actually doing it. So that's what we're going to get into today. First off, the feature that I would like to develop is for my newly released application called EngineerBox. And with this application, I can basically set a timer, set a task, and for example, this feature, I only want it to take me less than 30 minutes to implement this new feature. So I'll say new feature with TDD. And this new feature is tapping, let's say cells tappable for details. Cool. Right, and so this is, I can actually just do that now, set that. All right, so before we get started, to give a visual of what I'm thinking is, right now we have a situation where we have our application and we have these cells in here, accelerometerons. When we tap on a cell, currently nothing happens unless you're tapping on one of these buttons here. What I want to happen is I want a small screen or card to pop up with the title and the description that was given for that task that was time boxed. So the goal of this isn't necessarily to get to the visuals right away. I think I just want to get to the point where we write the test, start adding the functionality, and it doesn't need to look perfect or anything like that. But this is just to demonstrate the process of doing this test-driven development flow. Or in this case, it'll be more of a behavioral-driven flow. Okay. And the first place we're going to go in TDD, the process is you write a test, make sure it's failing, then you go and implement the business logic that's going to make the test pass. What we've got here, we already have a task specification class here that was created, and we already have another test, which is just should add task. What we want to do is create a new test that is should show task details. And Xcode is already kind of on it. So we do need our our context here, which as a refresher, what we did is created, I'm not sure if I don't think I actually did this on a video, but what I did here is created a test context, which is basically like a test suite that we can use for emulating any kind of interactions from the user that we want, whether it's tapping on something, navigation, whatever. And we do this by making sure that we have sort of a domain architecture set up that is listening behind the scenes, or where all the business logic is located. So when we look here, we definitely have a domain here. We have some stuff with core data or Swift data, and so on and so forth. But this is the place where we're going to add those sort of interactions. You can see here that we're emulating the behavior of the task view page loading. And so there's a function there for that. If we go back, it's interesting. Let's see what it already tried to add. this we do need. Task view page loaded. Add a half-hour task. That's fine. I think these first two steps are definitely what we want. When we think about the process of what's going to happen building up to this view that's going to pop up, this detail view of what the task title and description are, we think of, you know, the page loading, and then we think of adding a new task, and then we would want to tap on the cell. Then we would want to we would expect the actual view card to pop up after that. So, but that next step is what's important. Tapped view cell. Okay, and then our expectation will be right here. Expect to see detail view. All right. So now we can actually get to this. So how are we going to make sure that we can emulate the behavior of the user tapping on that actual cell? Let's finish writing the failing test first, and then we'll get to that. So what we'll do, you'll notice with the other two, we added new tasks, or we added new functions related to the thing that we want to emulate. So the next thing I want to emulate is tap tapped half-hour task cell. That's the behavior that we want to emulate. And inside of here is going to be whatever it takes in order to emulate the tapped behavior. We'll get to that. Let's go back, and now we have this. Let's get rid of the pseudocode here. We'll go app dot tapped half-hour task cell, and then we have the expect here. We expect some results. So yes. Now notice sometimes, you know, what I like to do, this is all, you know, at this point we're kind of in a process where it depends on how you would like to develop your test suite. You think of it like you're building another application, and that seems like a lot of work, but for the cost, basically what you're doing is you're paying with time for more validation of the product. So let's see how we can actually customize this. We can create some function that's meant to validate what we're expecting to happen. So if we look at this other one, we create a function called should have added task. Where do we put that? Down here? Okay, that's fine. We could also put here too. So this time we should show task details. Perfect. Task details. Yeah, you know what? It's on the right track here. So I created this convenience method that checks my logger. And if we take a look at this, yeah, this is just checking for a particular string out of a SPY. This can all be pretty complex to think about at first, but look at it like this. So I created this test logger here, which I end up passing through my domain. And what I have created, and a lot of people do this with their apps, they'll create a logger and their logger is meant to go to Firebase, or it's meant to go to Bugfender or Sentry, any other popular logging tools that you might use for production. What I do is I create a logger that ends up doing the same things that I want to do with the logger. And what I do is I make it into a protocol, and I create a test version of that logger that isn't actually calling into Firebase, or it's not calling into Sentry or anything like that. It's actually just meant to collect an array of all of the functions that were called, or collect an array of all of the logs that were supposed to happen. So we call it a spy. Got this technique from Mentor, where I work. So basically, we're collecting all of these logs so that we can go and validate that these logs that we're expecting to hit were hit. So yeah, just want to make sure I explained that, because I know that this can look pretty complicated at first. So we have this test logger. I end up passing that through the domain that we create, which the domain is just something that we once again keep a lot of the business logic behind. We end up creating an instance of the domain when the application starts and instantiates, and basically we're using the domain to help us understand that the business logic is working properly by testing it rather than testing the views, if that makes sense. So now let's get back over here from our tangent, and we will go ahead and do the same thing we did here. Let result equal that, and we'll do an expect on that. Okay, super small issue. Actually, just the naming was just the same as this one, that's all. So now what we can do is run this test, and we should get a failure because we're expecting to see this. We're expecting to see this log come through our spy. And of course it's not, it shouldn't be. All right, cool. So we get our failure here. Now we can work on making this actually pass by adding the actual business logic into the application. So first, I think I want to be more specific with this log. If this was a real world scenario one, I'd probably change it from EngineerBox task details shown, something like that. And so, yeah, now let's go make this pass. So we actually don't have any of the implementation for actually showing this thing. I may have a little bit of implementation for the tapping piece. Let's see. Yes. Right, so when we look at the actual task view here, we have a for each which iterates over the tasks. And for each one of these, we end up displaying a cell. Tap start, tapped complete. I think this first one is just a callback for tapped. Let's double check on that. Very messy. Tapped cell, yes, okay. Let's make sure this is being implemented somewhere. Okay, so tap gesture. Now, where our goal isn't to test the UI, that would be a different thing. We could, create some UI tests and do that. What we're focused on is just the business logic. What happens after the user actually taps the cell? Like what happens business logic wise? We expect that at least this log gets called, saying that we did indeed present the view. So what we want to do, so we know that this first callback is for tapping the cell itself. We can use that to our advantage, and let's see. Yeah, I think we can use this right here. So what I'm thinking is we can add sort of a pub sub situation, publish and subscribe situation, where we are listening for a change from the domain based on this particular thing. So, and we don't even have to necessarily go straight to the domain for this. We can add, to our view model, a property that is published and changes. So this published variable would be task selected. I mean, I think that's pretty good, actually. Yeah, this might be pretty nice. So we'll use this. We're going to create a new method in here. Task. That will be our new selected task. And now what's cool about this is we actually don't even need to use a log situation to do this, but we can do that. We can get an even more detailed test, but let's save that for a later video. Let's, for now, go ahead and use domains logger to log the tap cell. What was our actual test? Our actual test, we're looking for EngineerBox task details shown. That's what we're looking for. Really what we would want to do in a real world, if the test was going to be this basic, we would probably keep it pretty tight knit and make sure that we're very specific about this. This isn't really showing the cell, right? This is actually just that it was tapped. We're confirming it's tapped right now. I think we can go a step further, and what I'll have you do is just in the comments let me know if you want to see this next step. That way I know that's a video worth doing, and we can take it even deeper, because obviously we can get even deeper than creating tests for just spying on the logger. We can do some things where we're listening in on the view models and some of these published properties. So should be did tap. I'll just make a little note here. But for the sake of this, we're going to use this log. Okay. Now, actually, if we go over to our test and we go ahead and test this out, and notice that we didn't do any, mocking or anything like that of the view model. All we did, we're just paying attention to the logs. So, okay, so we did not see it here. That's all right. Let's find out why. Let's see. Right. So the reason why we're still not getting that log is because we actually didn't do anything with our test suite with the implementation yet. What we want to do is simply call task dot tapped task. And let's see here. Let's create it. Task. Perfect. Task. Cool. Now let's try the test again. Let's see what we get. Oh, we have a timestamp here. Let's just do now. All right, let's run it. Oh, got some breakpoints going on in here. Let's hit play. And look at that. We have passing test. Looks great. Let me know if this helped you out. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll keep doing a knowledge info dump on all the things I know about unit testing, behavioral driven testing, TDD like this. Yeah, stay tuned.